At 8 o'clock, we have the Economic Development Committee. Pat Casey, I think I saw, is here as chair.
Mr. Chairman, according to the agenda, they're going to be discussing Lot 3, and since Lot 3 is next to my house, I'm going to recuse myself, and I'll come back.
We'll do two things, if that's all right. One is give you a little update on some activity that we have planned as a committee. So recall that when we were formed, I guess it's getting to be a couple years ago, we were given a pretty broad charter.
Yep.
And Pete actually reminded us the other day that that charter was never signed off on. So one of the things that the committee decided to do to help get a sort of a long-term focus beyond just worrying about Lot 3, which has pretty much, consumed our attention over the past months, is to figure out what some of the major concerns are of businesses in the community. So we have started down the path of doing a number of interviews. We plan already to talk to 50-plus businesses in town. The committee members themselves will actually go around and do these interviews, and then we're going to tape them, and then we're going to go through. I actually do market research professionally, so I'll actually provide sweat equity and run the process, gather the information, come to the conclusions. And it's mostly sweat equity, although there's a small expense with regard to transcripts and so on. And I was just informed that the warrant committee, while we were talking, voted our $2,000 to do our market research. That will probably be followed up, and I forget the term that you used, Richard, but you were looking for some kind of forum on downtown businesses down the road. So we thought that gathering that data would be a good exercise to do before having that forum, and then we would go ahead and do that.
Okay.
So that's an activity we have going. Now we can turn our attention to Lot 3, and question for you guys is, we had a meeting back on December 16th where we ran through the history and our decision and the whys and wherefores. Do you want the long version with a recap of all that, or do you want to cut to the chase and talk about just what's happened since?
I think we're aware of that. I think the issue, because the last time you came before us, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mark, we sent you away with the idea that the current proposal, where one developer sort of had an inside track with the Kingsbury Club to get additional land, we just didn't think it was transparent, and we wanted something that was going to be on a level playing field for everybody.
Right.
And I think we sent back to see if the Kingsbury Club would be in agreement to setting aside approximately 5 acres of their land to join with Lot 3 to make it a more acceptable lot for people to bid on or to build on. And I know Mike had tried, and I believe Town Council had tried, and the information, correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, is that the Kingsbury Club was not interested in setting aside land in return for reduced rent that we would then charge.
I believe you people met with them also.
Yeah, so we subsequently had a meeting on the 19th of March where we asked Armand Janjigian to join us, and there were a number of topics that were on the table that night, and I'm going to just short circuit it all because it was all predicated on Armand agreeing to cede, if you will, some of his lot to all comers, so that was this level playing field. And the short answer is he's not comfortable with that.
Right.
So we got a no on that. So that left us with the choice of, recall last year at town meeting there was the vote, in favor of going out, to look at leasing this property. The Economic Development Committee supported that warrant and said we would run the RFP process if it was a favorable vote. So that leaves us with the choice of, moving forward with the constrained Lot 1,
Right.
or deferring altogether. So to make good on our commitment at town meeting, we're proposing that we go ahead with an RFP for Lot 3.
As it is.
As it is, and the thinking is that we want to do it with the current, under the current zoning.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be for, commercial purposes, which could be recreational or other.
Yeah.
And that was a little bit what town meeting had so voted and directed
Yep.
for us to go ahead to do that.
It was, I would say, first off, the proposal that was made was around a recreational facility. The vote that followed that was favorable. The warrant didn't read recreation facility, as I recall, but I think that's what people were voting for, yeah.
How do you want to do this? You want to take some questions, if there's any comments or questions anyone has, and then we can take a vote?
And then, and I think we should keep a time limit on it, because
Yeah.
we have a boatload of stuff to do.
Absolutely.
We don't want to get bogged down for 2
No.
hours discussing Lot 3 again.
No, we've done that.
We've done that before,
extensively.
done that.
It was a good time, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we know where most folks stand, but anyways.
Ann Thompson from the Economic Development Committee. This is a rare opportunity. We don't have any vacant commercial property in this town. We have plenty of other land, but we don't have any commercial. I think it's a rare chance for us to get some money to help keep the schools afloat, help keep the senior center afloat, the whole Boone town afloat, and maybe even get some money to fix these roads after our winter. But I think we've definitely got to take this opportunity. If nobody shows up and nobody bids on it, that's a whole different ballgame. We'll look at it again. But I just think this is an opportunity that we're not going to have again. I hate to turn it down.
Okay.
Oh, by the way, our committee was unanimous.
Any other general questions from the committee or anyone else? Okay, is there a motion at all you want to make?
Yeah, I think I'd like to make a motion that we authorize the Economic Development Committee to proceed with drafting and issuing, I guess, an RFP for, see what we get for proposed development of Lot 3.
And I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you.
Short and sweet, all right.
Let us take the permanent building committee, because they're here.
Mr. Chairman, before you go, leave the Economic Development Committee, could I just, I did make some copies of the mission for the Economic Development Committee that I was going to give to you and Mark.
Okay.
So what I have is what happened was Mike circulated a suggested mission statement for them. Richard, you had a version, and I had a version. And I just have one copy of this. So what I'll do is I'll email it to you guys,
Okay, and then we
and
can,
then we can figure out what the mission really should be.
okay.
We can get Pat copies of those.
I'll email it to him as well. Yep.
And I would say it'd be a good time to have that discussion is when we get some feedback from the interviews, and then we can kind of.
Yep, actually, very good idea. Yeah, I think it's a very good idea.
Just me commend you. I think that's a great step to take. And it's great to see. I don't think we've done that in a while, so thank you for taking that initiative on that.
Thanks.
We have before us a vote to sign the contract pertaining,
Here to the public safety
to
building.
the new public safety building. And you want to give us some background on that, Mike?
Sure, and actually, we're not looking for a signature tonight. We're just looking for authorization to award. And then what would happen is once we're authorized, we would give them notification that they've been awarded the project. They would come back with all their insurance, their contracts, et cetera.
And then
It all
we
would be
would sign.
reviewed by town council. When it's all negotiated out, we would then come back to you and ask for authorization to execute the contract.
Okay, good.
And your signature.
All right, good.
So, just a little background on that. We did receive 4 bids for the new public safety building opened on March 4th. 2 of the bidders did not acknowledge some addenda to the original set of documents, so they had to be disqualified. However, the good news is the low bidder did acknowledge those addendums, so they had a qualified bid. Their bid was within our budget, including the alternates. We did follow it up by doing research through DCAM, and they received very high ratings, with an average rating of 95 on a scale of 100, and with a lowest rating on their review of an 88. We looked at their average contract values, their insurances, all fit the bill. Everything came back approved on our standards. They were also, as well, I should say, they were all pre-qualified, so these were all bidders that had been through the process already. In terms of doing their evaluation, the quality of workmanship, scheduling, subcontractor management, safety and housekeeping procedures, change orders, working relationships, paper processing, and on-site personnel all came back as very good or excellent in their reviews. And based on that, we as the Permanent Building Committee would recommend that the selectmen award the contract to them.
Okay, either chiefs, Bob or Bill, any comments or anything?
No.
Mark or Pete, any comments or questions?
I have no comments and stuff.
Do we have a motion then you just want us to
Award the contract.
To
award the contract?
You recommend awarding of the contract, and then we will come back with the actual contract once everything's negotiated.
Do you have a motion to that effect?
I'd like to make a motion that we award the public safety building construction contract to G&R Construction Corporation.
And is that seconded? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Okay.
So one other item we had was to have you vote on authorization to extend the lease for West Street for the temporary facilities for the police.
Okay, so I'd like to make a motion to extend the lease agreement with Breen West Realty LLC for the police department for their relocation.
And is that seconded?
I'll second that, but I would like some sort of explanation as to why we're extending it.
It's extending, there was a temporary lease put in place prior to town meeting to secure the property. The extension is from this point forward, so now that the project will actually proceed, the extension is from here until they have moved out. So it's actually to provide the temporary space for them to move to while construction is occurring.
Okay, thank you.
Technically,
Oh, yeah.
the lease provided an option for the town to
And it's the second one,
exercise to
yeah.
extend. And that's
This is
not the
G&R
project's going
Construction.
forward, that's the basis for doing it.
Oh, okay, good.
Any other,
So have we been leasing this space already?
We had to in order to secure it. There's been some, and what we did is we
reduced-
negotiated a lower rate up front.
How long have
So
we
that it
been,
would minimize
leasing
the
it already?
Sorry?
How long have we been leasing it for already?
November 1st.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's just part of cost of doing business then, I guess.
It was, sorry, go ahead, Mike.
The alternative was we were going to have to rent trailers and bring in fiber optic lines and telephone lines. This space already had was used as assembly for computer components. It already had the fiber optics, already had the electric lines. So it was a long-term, it was a huge savings from having to do a trailer rental setup.
And I will say they were very cooperative in lowering the upfront rent while the project was being discussed for potential vote, so that they would minimize the cost up front when it wouldn't necessarily be used.
what do you see as just a brief, let the people know, a brief timeline? What can we expect over the next months?
So the current schedule has about a 2-year construction period. The next couple of months will mainly involve getting the chiefs out of their existing facilities. There's really nothing holding up fire. We can move them down to the DPW garage for their temporary facilities. And now that we can execute a lease agreement with Breen West, the next step would be for them to do some small construction in that to make it acceptable to the police for their use, so that it will be basically built to their suit. As soon as that's done, they will then move down there. And then as soon as the contract is signed and the general contractor is mobilized, we'll proceed with getting all permits in line, eventually doing demolition. The goal also is to have the parking lot that will be built across the street completed prior to the start of next school year, so that doesn't impact
Yeah.
any of that. So over the next few months, there'll be a lot of moving pieces, but it won't look like there's a lot of progress going on. But I anticipate that by fall, we'll start to see significant progress in construction and demolition.
Good.
So technically, the motion should be to, for the town to exercise its option as provided in the lease between the parties.
As so noted, yes.
Is that seconded? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Yep.
Aye. Opposed? Okay.
Excellent.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks,
And
Mike.
just to publicly thank the entire building committee, both
Yeah.
Chief Meany, Chief Kingsbury, for all the work. And I know there was hundreds of hours of early morning times that you guys have put into this effort. And I think because of that, you got the support at both town meeting and at the ballot. So thank you very, very much for all your efforts. We have to vote to sign for the consultant pertaining to Medfield State Hospital property on the master plan. Christine, can you just give us?
I believe you're actually the chairman of the State Hospital Master Planning Committee.
I'm sorry, Steve, I did not see you.
Snuck in.
I won't belabor this because I think you know a lot of the background already, but we've had a lengthy process of going out with an RFQ and getting proposals back, and we got quite a number of proposals. I think we got 9 submissions. We narrowed it down to 4. We interviewed the 4. We picked 2 of those. We interviewed them again and came up with the selection of Vanasse Hangen Brustlin. And we're pretty happy with them, with their team they assembled. So we have a contract that we negotiated with them that authorized them to proceed with Phase 1, not knowing what the town meeting vote would be, although we now have funds that we could authorize Phases 2 and 3, but I think we're going to hold off, get into Phase 1, make sure we're happy before we go on to Phase 2. So we're asking you to sign the contract. It does have that phasing built into it. So at this point, we're going forward with them if you approve the contract and assign it, and we'll have our first meeting the first week of May. So if you have any questions about it, I'm happy to.
Is there anyone else on the committee or any other questions anyone has?
My question is really, I guess, two-part. One, it's clear that the $100,000 that's being asked to bind the consultant to the town was voted at the last town meeting just a year ago. And the sense of the community at that time in voting that was that the money was needed for consultants relative to the perhaps purchase by the town. So we were relating to the state. We were possibly relating to an LSP who was already in a relationship with the town, to an attorney who was in relationship with the town. So there was no contemplation at that point that the money was going to be used to look at redevelopment of the property. And that's really what we're talking about here. We're 19 days away from the next town meeting. It seems to me that there's no good reason to spend $100,000 without the town meeting approving that, and then to ask the same town meeting to come up with another $150 and not have the relationship clear that we're really asking for $250,000, which is not just walking around money, given all of the other costs that we have on the table at the town meeting. So it strikes me that we ought to look back and just recognize how long it took us to get here and appreciate, as we did at the town meeting when we purchased the property, just how valuable it is and what an opportunity it extends to the town, and not be in such a great rush. All I've seen here is urgency up to this point. I mean, we were preparing an RFQ in September, and we didn't get hold of the land until December. Now, 4 months later, we're in a great rush to sign on a consultant before town meeting even understands. The people of this community deserve an opportunity to have a full presentation on this and to be brought up to date just to what the committee has been through. Steve just gave us a telescope summary of it, but Steve has been on record as wanting to bring developers in here. to do something more slowly, to do something in a more studied way before we sign on a developer, strikes me as a very wise thing to do. But I see no need for your board, Mr. Chairman, to, in anticipation of a town meeting just weeks away at this point, to go ahead and spend $100,000 of the taxpayers' money on a definite maybe that they will then vote another $150,000. So I would urge you to vote to postpone your approval. I mean, there's no meeting with that proposed consultant until May 6th, well after town meeting. So there's no compulsion for you people to sign off on this tonight. And I think it's in the interest of the board as well as the total community to have this aired at town meeting and defended at town meeting and see what the townspeople think about it.
Just a point of legal, is there, on that article that John mentioned for the $100,000, is that broad enough, or is that, is there any legal issues?
Can I actually speak, Mark, before you do? This is the actual article, and which was at April's town meeting, and the description underneath the article, when we described it, was these funds requested this year will be primarily used to prepare a master plan for development and/or preservation of the site now that the town meeting has voted to acquire the property from the Commonwealth. I think we were very clear at town meeting what that money was for.
Mr. Chairman, we're talking here, Christine, about the 100,000 being put into play when these gentlemen sign off on this. That was 2014. I can read your 2014 article. It says nothing.
That is 2014's article.
What?
That is.
Read it again, then.
The attorneys hiring consultants, engineers, and/or attorneys to advise the town on matters concerning the disposition, reuse, or the environmental site remediation of the former Medfield State Hospital. Goes on to say that funds can be expended in the direction of the Board of Selectmen. But the description underneath the article is very clear that this will be used for a master plan for development and/or preservation. That's April 2014.
Now, I have that same document here, but I didn't read that.
I'm just saying, I think it was very clear to the voters last year what we were intending that money to be.
The word reuse is right in
But it didn't necessarily, I think when I read it, reviewed it this afternoon, I said, all right, if you can't deny, distinguish. And it didn't say, a developmental reuse, for sale and development.
I think our description underneath, which I would say most people read more than the actual articles we write, was clear that it was to prepare a master plan for development preservation of the site now that the town meeting has voted to acquire the property from the Commonwealth. So I don't think we were hiding anything from the voters. That was the plan for the money.
I would not agree with your interpretation of that. It seems to me that the people voted overwhelmingly to purchase the property, but had and they put their trust in the Board of Selectmen to make the right decision for the town.
This was a subsequent town meeting from the purchase, though. The purchase was prior to this article. So we purchased the property. We had the vote to purchase the property, and then afterwards was the town meeting to appropriate the money for the master plan.
Now, again, I really don't believe that the people of Medfield understand that the Board of Selectmen signing off before this town meeting on a developer-oriented consultant.
Okay. I think it was clear in
I just
here
don't
what we
think
presented
there's
to
a
town
measure.
meeting.
And
That isn't what that says. It says for the, I believe, what you read was the development, reuse, or preservation of the property. That covers a lot of territory, and these funds are not being used to hire a developer. They're being hired to develop a master plan, to come up with a plan for reuse, reuse, redevelopment, or preservation of the property.
as Michael, as we all know, we're quite well versed in this whole town situation, political situation, but that was written so broadly that it would.
I wrote it.
I understand, and you're well skilled at writing them. But take that and ask yourself honestly, do the people of Medfield really at this point in the game, do they truly understand that that we bought this land in order to sell it? We bought this land in order to develop it. I don't think they
It was
do.
clear to me that the discussion was whatever we were going to do with the property, we needed to move very quickly to decide, because the carrying costs for that property were going to be very expensive for the taxpayers. So whether we decide to do nothing with it, as you would prefer, or we decide to address a variety of town needs, including open space, we need to come up with some decisions and not sit on it at a cost of $300,000 a year, carrying costs for this property. $600 if you add in the purchase price.
Yeah, we need to get going. We need a plan.
Okay.
I would like to be able always to articulate my own preferences, Michael, and those are not to do nothing with the property, but those are not also, at this stage of the game, before town meeting has had a chance to voice its opinion on it, to move ahead, a matter of days before town meeting, and put out
They made that
$100,000.
decision at the town meeting last year when they appropriated the funds to do a master plan.
Okay, why don't we, because I think John's argument is very clear, that you're feeling that the townspeople do not have enough information. You're asking us to hold off until after town meeting.
Yes, I'm saying it's on time, tonight, on the 7th of April, with a town meeting on the 27th of April,
27th.
that this is an untimely signing.
And town council had a comment?
Yeah, my only comment legally is that when you come to evaluate an action of a town meeting, you don't look at the subjective mindset of voters or groups of voters. You look at what was the language of the article, the language of the motion, and the action of the town meeting. And that's the case law very clearly out of actually a Bellingham case involving a power plant up there. So we have guidance from the courts as to how you construe town meeting action.
Okay, anyone else that had questions or comments? Go ahead.
Jack Wolf, Harding Street. You approved tonight the Lot 3 RFP. It seems to me that if I look at some of the details of the proposal for the master planning, it includes some oversight over the Lot 3 space and the adjacent Hinckley, et cetera, space. Is there any conflict at all between the approval of the Lot 3 RFP and the ultimate use of this space as dictated by the master plan?
Steve, I wouldn't think so, but do you see any conflict?
I don't see a conflict. I mean, we're aware, Pat Casey told me today about the upcoming RFP, and I said to him that was fine by us. We would just, incorporate whatever evolves from that in our thinking. So I don't really view it as a conflict. We'll just, incorporate that into our thinking as we go forward.
And town council has a...
RFP is part of a process, and even if you put it out on the street and got responses, you're not bound to do anything. So at any point, you could decide that this is or is not consistent with what we want to do in the overall area, or you might decide this is fine, we want to move ahead with a particular project there. So you've got all the options open.
Yeah, so we're not bound by anything.
Any other comments? Gil?
I'd just like to clarify that, that our committee was tasked with the responsibility of moving ahead and developing a master plan. And that's been very clear. And as Mike said, there's a sense of urgency, not for development, but a sense of urgency in order to start to develop a plan and not to keep delaying it. The company that we're, VHB, that we're considering for as a consultant is not a developer. It's not a development option. I've been very clear in outlining the objectives of what we're trying to pursue, and it's a balanced set of objectives with open space, with reuse, with a multitude of different options. And the consultants to help us in evaluating those and studying those in a systematic way, and not to bias it toward anything at this point. I think there's not a person on the committee that doesn't have an open view of what to do. We're trying to get the inputs of the community to do that. We're trying to go in it with an open mind. but I think we all feel that we have to move ahead with it. We can't just keep delaying and delaying for no real reason. So I would urge the board to accept this proposal in order to get the process underway. We have the commitment of the community from last year's warrant article, and that's been clear about it. I think we're going into it in a very objective, open way, but we ought to move ahead with it and not simply delay it.
Any other questions? Comments?
Hi, I'm Teresa James, and I'll just kind of reiterate, I'm on the Medfield State Hospital Master Planning Committee as well, and that's what the master planning process is about. It's about dreaming yet and exploring our alternatives of what can be. And that's really what planning's about, and that's what we're asking for. We've appropriated those funds already in 2014. We have a consultant that is very highly skilled, actually very, they have a multiple verse of diversity that will help guide us through this process. And it's about guiding us through the process as well, guiding the public process. And it's not that we've decided already we're developing. We'll be exploring the alternatives. If you read the RFQ, we very clearly said we want to know what the alternative is if one of our interviewees actually said, you never not do nothing. There's always something that's done, and we'll have some very tough decisions to make about that property. And so we have to, and that's why we started that process back when you asked us to be on the committee, was to begin preparing and planning. This is very much still a planning stage. We have no decisions, and that's what this is about. So I'll just reiterate much of what was said.
Well, let me, if Pete and Mark, any comments, and then if we want to hear a motion.
Yeah,
Any comments, first of all?
No, I'm ready to move forward with a motion to vote unless Pete's got some
Any
comments.
comments at all, Pete?
I think that the sense of the town is that we want to plan as rapidly as possible for what we're going to do with the Medfield State Hospital and not sit on our hands. And I think that's what the committee's doing. So I'm ready to go forward with signing the contract.
And just in mind, I think the vote that they took a year ago with the $100,000, I think was to move forward with a consultant. I think on John's point, when they bring the $150,000 up, then the community's going to be informed. I would imagine there'll be discussion that will take place, and the community can then make a decision, I think, if we're on the right course or not, with that additional $150,000. So is there a motion?
I'd like to make a motion for the board to sign the contract with Vanasse Hangen Brustlin, Inc., consultant pertaining to the Medfield State Hospital Property Master Plan.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Yep.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Okay.
Good. Okay.
Thanks very much.
We'll sign it. Good. Thanks, Steve.
We have under a new business, vote to authorize the chairman to sign the First Amendment to the Wheelabrator Millbury, Inc. Waste Disposal Agreement.
This is the contract that Walpole essentially negotiated for the 20 or 30 communities that are in the and it lowered the price from $78 a ton to $60 a ton. And it was the second 10 years of a 20-year contract that we're entering into. So we've already recognized savings from that. The price drop started in January and went down to $64 a ton, I believe it is, from 78. So.
Do we have a motion to that effect?
I'd like to make a motion to authorize Chairman DeSorgher to sign the First Amendment to the Wheelabrator Millbury, Inc. Waste Disposal Agreement.
Is that seconded?
I'll second that. Mike, why is it that if we haven't authorized the amendment that we're already getting the lower rate?
They just.
Went into effect. There were a certain number of towns that had to sign it by the end of December, I believe. And they did. This was all predicated upon the fact that timing was everything. The facility was being sold, and it was a leverage situation where there was an opt-out coming up in the future. It was negotiated now and give us a rate we like, and we'll stick around. And it was very well done for the municipal side of things.
Yeah, it sounds like a great thing. Thank you.
All in favor?
Yep.
Opposed? We have a motion to approve the health insurance renewal for the period of July 1, 2015 to June 30, 2016, and to vote to authorize the chair to sign the document.
I'd like to make that motion, to, once again, approve the health insurance renewal as so noted.
And I believe you have the rates here. The Insurance Advisory Committee met last week and unanimously voted to recommend the adoption of the contract with Maya Blue Cross Blue Shield. Those are excellent rates.
Only 3% increase, huh?
3% increase.
Fabulous.
I believe the West Suburban Group went up 13 or 14% this year. The GIC Group, in addition to increasing their co-pays and deductibles, went up, it was talking about going up 8.5%. I'm not sure they've actually set the rate yet, but then the GIC had a $190 million, I believe, deficit this year. So we were very happy to only have a 3% rate increase. Now, remember, we had an 8.8% increase last year, so it hasn't been totally good news. But going forward next year, I think these rates are very good as far as the town's concerned.
Yeah, I think you've got a nice grouping of towns and stuff in this particular health insurance grouping with mine, don't you think so?
Yes,
It's- You seem to be able to do quite
Yeah,
well.
I think there's about 150 cities and towns in it.
Nice
so.
little negotiating group, yeah.
Further
Second.
discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
It's interesting. I was reading an article today. A lot of the communities that went into the GIC, you had to sign up for either 3 or 6 year period. They're starting to come out.
Yeah.
Saugus has come out. Pittsfield has come out. New Bedford's come out. They're negotiating with, and I think there was another one that was talking about coming out. So the experience with GIC has not been great.
Well, you knew that because Peter had talked about that when we were first looking at Peter
Exactly.
Moran. It's
Peter
mentioned it
Moran's
didn't-
been a huge help to the
said
committee.
it wasn't going to
on-
be a good idea.
on this in this regard.
Glad we didn't go that way. Oh,
Couple of letters.
yeah, okay.
Couple of letters of information received. A letter of recommendation from Michael Clancy, the sale of weights and measures. Can we contact Gus Murby on the swap committee? Because this may be something that a multi-town,
Right. I spoke to
fit
Mike
into that.
Clancy yesterday. He was here for the solid waste meeting, and I got the information from him, and I'm going to write up a memo and send it out to Gus, and I'll forward it to you people too. So right now, Mr. Clancy has been serving as sealer for Medfield, Millis, and Medway, so it's an ideal opportunity to look at a continuation
Turn
of
up
what's
that
already
same
been a
group.
regionalization effort. So
he served for a number of years, correct?
I believe, I asked him 15, and he said yes, it was about 15 years.
Can we make sure we have a letter that the
Sure.
selectmen can sign and send to
Yeah.
him for his service on that?
He's also currently still a member of the Council on Aging too, so. Still.
We need a vote, thank you, to authorize the chair to sign the certificate of appointment for the elected town clerk, Carol Mayer.
Yep, so I'll go ahead and make that motion as so noted by the chairman.
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We also have an update, the snow budget deficit through April the 9th. Payroll of $327,169.19.
That's payroll and operations, so it's both. And you may be curious as to why it went down from the last time. Well, the warrant committee elected to transfer $50,000 out of its reserve fund
Reserve fund, okay.
to reduce the snow deficit for this year. And we are, in the tax rate estimate, we're currently carrying $200,000 as a snow deficit.
Yeah.
Now, you'll say, well, it's already $327,000. There is a strong anticipation that we will get some sort of assistance from the Federal Emergency Management Agency. Hopefully, the governor's applied for all 4 storms, reimbursement for all 4 storms. Normally, they only do 48 hours. But even if we did get the 48 hours, that would be a substantial benefit to us and probably bring us in line with the 200,000 deficit as long as it doesn't snow anymore.
Yeah.
The other thing is the governor has signed legislation. It was part of that additional budget packet that was passed a couple of weeks ago by the legislature that allows towns to spread the snow emergency repayment over 2 years instead of 1 year. So normally you would have to raise that $327,000 on next year's tax rate. This allows you, if you so choose, and assuming that we didn't receive any federal assistance, to spread that amount over 2 years.
So if we needed to, yeah, if
Yeah.
we did. So that's your backup plan if you don't get.
I'm
some-
hoping we don't need to do that. It would be much better because, you know, you never know, we may have another winter next year like this one.
Compounds, then the
Yeah.
money just compounds. You want to get it put to bed.
Yeah.
Mike, I get emails with information from the Department of Revenue sent to me on a regular basis, and the one today, I thought it said that you could spread the snow and ice deficit over 3 years, but I'll look and see if I
Well,
didn't see that email, but it may not, it may still be on my computer, and I'll forward it
Okay.
to you.
It's two.
Which is two, well, there was a,
Proposal for 3.
the House passed a proposal for 2 years. The Senate passed it for 5. I think there was some talk that there might be a compromise of 3 years, but my understanding was what the
forever, huh?
governor ended up signing was 2 years.
Yeah.
Now, it's possible that when everybody gets their bills put together and finds out how big they are, they may decide to extend it out for 3, but
Yeah,
as you
that's,
say, it can be a problem down the road if it snows again next
pushing the
year. You
problem
just,
down the road, yeah.
So-
Yeah.
and we've already pushed enough around the roads this winter already, so.
I was waiting for that one.
Do we have any idea when we might hear if,
The
Any requests are-
I went on the MMA website today and read that, and they said they expect to hear from Washington in a few weeks.
I see he agreed to the Rhode Island request for that initial blizzard.
Oh, they did? Okay.
They did, for the
Well,
state
then I
of Rhode
assume
Island.
Massachusetts would qualify at least for that, so. So we're probably in pretty good shape in that regard.
Mike, if that does happen, how much money would that, is it 75%?
It's
of the
75%.
first 48 hours or something?
48 hours, and I think it came out to be something like 125,000 or something like that.
Yeah.
So that's how you got to the 200, yeah. When
Yeah,
you back
yeah.
the numbers in, yeah.
Okay.
So,
Not all of it, but it's a good amount.
yeah, the other question is when do you get it? Now, in the past, they've been pretty good. They've sent it out fairly quickly. You know, you apply for it, and in 2 or 3 months, you'll get your reimbursement. There was someone the other day mentioned that from one of the towns said, oh, you won't get it for a couple of years. Because I think there was something, they've had so many disasters the past couple of years, the fund that they pay these out of is bankrupt, so that the federal government may have to put more money in it, so I'm not sure, but if that were the case, we could always go to the 2-year plan and then use the money when it eventually did come in
Comes
to
back
pay
in,
it
yeah.
off, so.
Jeez.
Okay. We have a notice, the town and the schools have worked very well together. Andrew Seaman, who's our new energy manager, has really taken the lead to secure a 24-month fixed-rate contract for natural gas. Negotiations are ongoing for electricity. Due to the time-sensitive contracts, it's requested that the selectmen vote to authorize the town administrator to execute the contracts when they are available on the selectmen's behalf. So it looks like there's some substantial savings we can make in the area of natural gas and electricity.
Yes, the school already has a long-term contract for electricity, so we are, the 2-year extension, or 2-year contract would begin July 1st, and there's a reason for that, because if you start, Edison or Eversource now they're called, changes their rate every 6 months. They have a 6-month fixed rate, and if you change it in between, they can back bill you for whatever portion of that 6 months was left. So that's why, but that 2-year contract would tie us in with the expiration of the school's electricity contract, so that next time it comes up, we could do both school and town all on the electricity.
Nice.
Gas contract, the school did not have a contract for an alternate supplier, so Mike LaFrancesca, the Director of Finance and Operations for the school, talked with Andrew, and they are jointly doing that one, so.
Good.
So it's been great cooperation between the 2 departments.
He's already paid for the cost we had the
Savings,
grant, but the
yes,
cost of the energy manager, he's already paid for himself.
Right. He sure
is
is,
great.
yes.
Then we need a motion to request the selectmen to vote to authorize our town administrator to execute contracts when they are available on the selectmen's behalf.
I'll make that motion as so noted.
And is that seconded?
Second.
Any discussion?
Let me explain the reason for having me sign it rather than chairman of the selectmen. The market prices apparently fluctuate daily. So if they call you in the morning and they say you have to sign by 2 o'clock in the afternoon to get the price, and so
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
why it needs to be
Good.
someone who's here all the time, so.
Any other discussion? We'll vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Yep.
Opposed? We have a vote to sign the annual town meeting warrant for posting.
Yeah, I'll make that a motion for us to sign the annual town meeting.
Second.
And that's second. Any discussion?
Don't leave home without it. Those have to be posted.
sure.
or-
I will follow you out.
All in favor?
Yep.
Aye.
Okay, we have a number of licenses and permits. We have the Medfield Lions Club request permission to hold a car wash with the Medfield High School Community Teens in the back of Town Hall on Saturday, May 16th, from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m.
Second that.
Second.
All in favor?
Yep.
Aye.
Aye. We have the Natick Rotary Club request permission to ride through a part of Medfield on Sunday, June 21st. Police Chief Meany has reviewed this, and he has approved it.
Make
We
the
have a
second-
motion?
Second that, yeah, make the motion,
So
yeah.
moved. Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We have the gazebo players of Medfield requesting permission to use the gazebo park on July the 18th and July the 19th for their performance of Julius Caesar. Also, they request permission to post signs to promote the event. The signs would be in place from July 6th to July 19th. We have a motion to that effect.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We have the First Parish Unitarian Universalist Church requesting a wine and malt beverage permit for Friday, Saturday, for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, May 1, 2, and 3, in conjunction with their fundraising event. It's a performance of The Operator with the musical.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yep.
We have permission is being requested for the second annual Women's Bike Ride to be held July 18th to ride through part of Medfield, coming from Dover on Pine Street onto Winter Street, and then turning right on North Street back to Dover. It would take place between 9:30 and 10 a.m. Police Chief Meany has reviewed this, and he has approved it. We have a motion to that effect.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We have the Medfield Varsity Field Hockey Team requesting permission to hold a car wash behind Town Hall on June the 13th, which is a Saturday, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. A motion to that effect.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We have Medfield Lions Club partnering with the Medfield Neighborhood Brigade. They are requesting a one-day wine and malt beverage permit for their fundraising event on Saturday, May 2nd, from 7:30 to 10:30 p.m. at the center. A motion to that effect.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Yep.
We have the gazebo players requesting a one-day wine permit for April the 11th, the 4th annual Murder Mystery. The event will take place in the library between 7 and 9 p.m. A motion to that effect.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We have the Zulo Gallery for the Arts. William Pope, the director, requesting the use of the gazebo park for the 6th Annual Art Festival on Saturday, June 13th, from 7 to 11:30 p.m. He also requests permission to set up the tent on Friday, June the 12th. A motion to that effect.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Yep.
And we're getting to the bottom here. We have the Medfield Girl Scouts requesting permission to conduct their annual cannon bottle drive on Saturday, May 16th, from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the transfer station. Motion to that effect.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Yep.
Aye.
And the last one, we have the Church of the Advent requesting permission to post signs from April 25 to May 9th, promoting the annual Mother's Day plant sale that they hold, and that'll be on May the 9th, and a motion to that effect.
So moved.
Second. It's
All
like
in favor?
Yeah. It's like all that
This means spring is coming.
Tell the
winter
snows-
doldrums is over.
All those homebound folks want to bust out.
Well, I said, as soon as it's 70 degrees, the entire town's just gonna rush out into the streets. Selectmen reports, Mr. Fisher?
I think just the only thing, I just wanted to really thank the town of Medfield, the confidence that they've put in the selectmen, the permanent building committee, and everyone else in town hall, and approving, that we can get a new police and fire station built. It's terrific that it went through on the first round. Most of our projects have taken a couple of rounds to kind of get through, and I'm really personally pleased that they felt confident that the plan and the size and the structure and the pricing was appropriate, so they didn't have to go back and try to cut it and try to redo it again. So we can get on with getting a new home for our fire and police station. Well-deserved, well overdue. It's going to be a fabulous building in that section of town. It's going to look great. It's not going to look like just a red brick box. It's going to have some nice architectural criteria, so it's going to be something we're all going to be very proud of. And once again, I just want to thank everyone for all their help in the town for doing that. It was a big deal for us, and it's a big thing to get accomplished. It's nice to see that the town is following through and is committed to the long-range capital building campaign. We've got a great process set up now with a great committee that's willing to put in extraordinary amount of time, and it makes them feel good that their hard work is rewarded, and people trust their judgment and stuff like that, as we well should. So we're on to our second building. Like I said, the garage came out, DPW came out fabulous under budget. I know this building's going to come out just fabulous, and then they'll move on to their next project, which will be the Dale Street School, which is once again another thing that's needed and well overdue. So thanks very much to the town. I appreciate it. Really
Well
do.
put, well put. Selectman Peterson.
I would just mention that the Medfield Foundation held its volunteer awards at the end of March, and had a very nice celebration for Benit Shaw, who is a high school student who created a tech club at the library and was honored as the Youth Volunteer of the Year this year. Chris Potts, who is heading up the Medfield Music Association, was recognized for her work with as the Volunteer of the Year. And Lifetime Achievement Awards were given to Jean Sullivan, who just did an incredible amount of things with a variety of areas, the schools, her church, and the community. And then also Mike and Caroline Stanley for about 60 years worth of service on a myriad of town boards. The Medfield Cares About Prevention meeting has been focusing on creating what they're thinking of as like a tip line, so that it might be a call from someone in the police department, but it would be a call that would say, this isn't really police business, but we heard that while you're planning on being away on the Cape this weekend, that there's talk about having a party at your house, and we thought you might like to know. So it would be a way for people to give information to a source in town that could then pass it along to the people, so that if someone became concerned about something like that going on, that they could then share it, and that would be a way to get the information to the people that might want to make a decision about that. Everybody thinks it seems like a really good idea, so that the committee's looking into how to implement that.
Was the chief at the meeting? Is he aware of this, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just was going to say, otherwise we'd let him know, but.
Beg your pardon?
I said otherwise I'd let him know, but if he was at the
No,
meeting.
he was one of the ones that was discussing how to implement it and run it through, maybe through the police department or maybe not, but it's a question of how you do it. Is it a cell phone that gets passed around so that it's always in somebody's hands when the call comes in that can respond to it then? But and it doesn't really have to be a police response, but it can be. It could be. Let's see, the other Cub Scout pack had a blue and gold banquet down at the Legion. The Gold Awards happened, and both of those events are just remarkable to see what the kids have done, especially with the Gold Awards, because the young women are just so accomplished, and all these high school kids in Medfield are just so well spoken when they have to present information. So, and that's it.
Okay, just thanks to you for that. The entire foundation award ceremony just goes off so well. And I think it's nice the town appreciates the people that do so much for the town. And I think it's nice, even though they're not looking for a pat on the back, I think it's nice that they do that. So it was just a great event, and I think they appreciated it, and it's a great thing for the town, so thank you for your efforts on
It's a
that.
simple concept, just to say thank you to people.
And I too was at, as was Mark, at the Gold Awards, and as Pete said, it's just incredible, the efforts they put into that. I also attended the warrant committee hearing. What I would like to do, if we could set aside, we don't meet next week, but the third Tuesday, set aside just for dealing with town meeting, because that's going to be the last time that we're going to have a selectmen's meeting before town meeting, to see how the selectmen stand on each issue, and so that we can go through that, just so we can be real prepared. Because the warrant committee also, by then, probably will have their results of how they're voting on each of the issues as
Right,
well.
the warrant report went to print last week. There were a number they hadn't voted on yet.
Yeah.
There were a number they had, but you should also plan on assigning speakers for the articles.
Right,
You
so
know,
that's why I
uppers
thought
that-
if we can
Yeah.
dedicate our next meeting just to kind of focus on the town meeting.
That's excellent.
Just a couple, I received a letter from a Phillip Street resident that was concerned about the traffic, the speed of the traffic on Phillip Street, on Nebo Street, Foundry Street, on that section, and is looking for the chief to do some radar guns up in that area. I believe he sent a copy to the chief. I'll try to follow up with that. Also, I got a letter from,
Speed bumps.
actually not a letter, but a call from some of the members of the SWAP. They're hoping to open up, I believe, first.
It is May 1st, I
May
think,
1st?
around the first weekend in May, I think, yeah.
But part of their problem, they wonder if they can get some help, because I think that area was used as part of our snow dump. And it looks like the DPW's tried to plow some of that. Is there a way they could help in any way to
Yeah,
make that area available so they'll be able to open?
Well, the best news is I saw the 10-day weather forecast, and starting Friday, the temperature's going to be in the mid-60s for as far as out as they went on the 10-day forecast. So, but yeah, the solid waste committee met yesterday, and we went over all of that and about purchasing a tent for them to set up and where to locate it. So. And Highway will work with them. I spoke to Ken about that and helping with them, so.
So that the
Yeah.
snow can be moved or whatever,
Yeah.
so that it'll
They
be
had
able to open?
They had a plan for a road that was gonna go all the way around, and, that would require a lot of work, and as, Scott Caldwell pointed out, that was a major project that they wanted done, and with all the potholes and road work that's gotta be done, there really isn't gonna be time to do that before their May opening. But they are gonna be able to.
The area itself, where they
Yes.
operate, will be able to have that?
Yes,
So that it's
yeah.
open? Great.
Yeah.
So they were looking to have like a pull-through, like a entrance and an exit road.
Drive-through?
A drive-through.
swap.
Oh, I see. Yeah, that takes a lot more work, because they'd have to regrade and back the whole train and come all the way out and around.
And they
I
wanted
see.
to put a lot of additional parking in, and it was gonna require, that fire safety
Oh, yeah,
fire
yeah,
training
move that.
trailer, that would have to be moved and relocated.
Okay, so a little bit of
So
work.
that's kind of a longer range?
Yeah, yeah, that's a little bit
And
of
there's
work.
they wanted, I think, 3 tents eventually. One of them is like a round dome thing,
Excellent.
and the other 2 are, I call
Nice.
them wedding tents, sort of more like
Excellent.
that, but they're like the long ones. Like 40 or something, so.
Power TVs.
But it's such a positive thing, and it's a way the town really can save some money, and I think we've seen over the past couple of years with
Yeah.
the swap, some real savings on that, because otherwise, that gets thrown in, and we end up having to pay for that.
Anything people can do to recycle saves money, the solid waste budget's down this year, in part because the rates dropped for the incinerator tonnage, but in part because of the swap area efforts, and in part because of the single stream recycling, so.
It's just an incredible sense of community. I think if you want to learn anything, you go hang out at the swap area.
Yeah.
My grandchildren get all their stuff from there, so I'm waiting for it to open. They haven't received anything in a while. And just the last thing, can you just update us on, I know the water and sewer looking for a possible article. Has that been withdrawn? Is that settled, or where are we with that?
It's kind of late to open a special within the annual, because the special has to be posted for 14 days. So if you didn't do it tonight, you wouldn't be able to do it. But I'm not sure it's necessary. I think when I spoke to Ken about this, and he is planning to go ahead with preliminary studies and tests on well number 3. He's also doing some temporary repairs that will keep it operational until, but in any event, when you rebuild the well or reload or move it, you have to get permission from DEP, and you have to go through a lot of approvals. It's a long approval process, so I don't think we'd be able to utilize that money until, I think we put an article on next year's town meeting.
Is there any immediate issue, though, with the quality of the water?
It's not the quality of the water, it's they weren't able to pump the water out, so these temporary repairs allow them to pump the water out.
Because it's going up
there are
the
some
iron.
issues, there have always been issues with that
Yeah.
are about manganese levels.
Yeah.
And that, right now, it is a regulated substance. Everyone expects it within the next few years to be a regulated substance. It's not considered particularly harmful, although I suppose in large quantities of it, it's more of a nuisance, as one of the articles indicated, because it stains toilet bowls and bathtubs and whatnot.
Yeah.
But they are looking into a couple of solutions, and it really needs to be some studies done as to what the best way to do it. We have another well on the other side of the railroad tracks that has an iron problem, so we've never been able to build that well. It's where that gravel pit is when you cross over the railroad track.
Oh, yeah, sure, yep.
And they started digging there, and they almost lost a piece of equipment, and there's a lot of peat in there. But you also, when they started pumping the water out, it was very, it's orange from the iron.
Sure.
So they need to, in the design of whatever they're gonna build there, they need to figure out a way to treat iron and manganese.
Yeah.
And there are some methods, very different methods that are being used, as I understand it. Some now are, they used to build big treatment plants, and that may be what we end up having to do. But there are also some where they can retain it in solution, so even though it's still there, you don't see it because it doesn't precipitate out in little black particles. So that's what they're going to be doing, and I don't think it's a immediate crisis. I think within 2 or 3 years something's got to be done. But I think
It's not something, if we don't act now, we're going to have serious water issues then.
Yeah. I mean, we rely, our main well is well number 6, which is the well up by the state hospital near the Sherburne line. We also have wells number 1 and 2 down by the Charles River. Ken said well number 3, they can pump water, will be usable supply. It's just that something's got to be done with it in the next couple of years.
So, Mike, did you just say that it is a problem if we don't act, or it's not a problem if we,
It's not a problem we don't act
right away?
right away.
Today.
But we need to address it, and I think
Okay.
we probably will need to.
And at the moment, they can use well 4, but not well 3, is that what you're saying?
They can use, no, we haven't used well 4 in a number of years.
Okay,
We've
so
just
we don't
used
use,
wells.
we don't use 4.
We use 1, 2, 3, and 6. 5 is the one on the other side of the tracks that never got built.
Did you say we do use 3?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So we do use 3.
We use 1 and 2.
And is 3 the one that's the issue
Yeah.
with the,
Do the manganese.
so would we no longer draw from 3?
We try to
No, we
avoid it.
draw, he's making some temporary repairs. There was some sort of a concrete pad down the base of it's a gravel pack well, and there was a concrete pad or something, and it broke up somehow. And it could be water pressure, with all the water we've had this winter, they're pushing it up. But it broke up, and it did some damage to the impeller blades that are used to pump the water up out of the ground. And so he's had to get that replaced. But we'll have a sufficient supply for the summer.
Water and Sewer's meeting on Thursday night to discuss the issue
Yeah.
and then come up with a recommendation, I believe.
And that's all I have. Informational, we mentioned that the transfer station is open the next 3 Sundays. That's April 12th, the 19th, and the 26th. Is that on our website so people know that?
I'll put it on there today.
Okay, thanks. As Mike mentioned, the governor has requested federal disaster assistance for basically the 4 storms that hit. Medfield has received $30,672.49 from the local meal tax from December 14 to February 15. Archbishop Sean O'Malley will celebrate a mass for public safety personnel and families on October the 4th at the Cathedral of the Holy Cross in Boston. Everyone is welcomed. And the Yellow Book phone book is now 100% recyclable, and residents will have a choice to opting out, receiving the book by logging on, I had brought this up before, to www.yellowpagesoptout.com is a way we can add that to the site as well. So if somebody doesn't want to get that yellow phone book thrown on your driveway, you can opt out by going online and registering, and you will not receive it. And we need to sign the warrants, the vendor warrants for March 31 and April 7th. Any other business to come before the board?
You need to sign the payroll warrants downstairs and the warrants for town meeting. So,
Right here.
Could I run down a quick list of things that I think that we need to be looking at in our future meetings?
sure.
I think that we need to be doing a better job of getting the material out in advance of the meetings to the selectmen, the agendas. And I had, somebody came to my selectmen office hours last Friday and complained about the selectmen agendas not being online. I also think that this person had also written a letter to the Board of Selectmen and had never gotten an acknowledgement of it. I think that whenever, we should have a checklist so that when something comes in for the selectmen, that something should automatically go out to them. And I think that I noticed that there was a letter when I took the materials back at our last meeting that I had never seen before, so that there also should be some sort of checklist so that when a letter comes in for the selectmen, that it actually does get to the selectmen. It was a letter from a couple, 3 months ago, I think, just from trying to remember. I think that we have a lot of deferred maintenance beyond just regular pothole stuff on our streets. I remember I couldn't run last summer, so I ended up biking around town a lot. And it struck me that we have a lot of the edges of our streets, I think, have a lot of deferred maintenance. I think, I'm wondering if we're getting into a problem. And so I really think that we should be coming up with a pavement plan and looking at the deferred maintenance. Harding is bad, Elm Street is bad, just from memory.
Well, you will tend to get down on the older narrow roads that don't have curbings. That's where you usually get it, because cars kind of go off the edge.
I guess and I don't know enough about it, Mike, to know, but everything that you hear or that I've read says that if you don't do the maintenance, that it becomes much more expensive when you have to replace the whole road.
It
I'm
is,
getting
and-
concerned that Harding and Elm are getting to the point where we're gonna have to do a major replacement rather than just tinkering with the maintenance stuff. So I don't know. I just think we need a plan and that we execute the plan. Because I want to save the town the money of having to avoid those major street redos.
Yeah, well, I know we are having a pothole problem this year for the first time I can ever remember. We've never had potholes, but just because this winter was
Yeah,
so
it's
bad,
bad.
but everybody's having
But
potholes.
anyway,
and so-
I noticed the
but it's,
problem last summer
yeah.
too, as I said, when I was biking
Yeah.
around, so. One of the other discussions I had was with Bill Massaro about the fact that we should probably be looking at the Medfield State Hospital on pulling the trigger on requiring DCAM to build the alternate access to the park overlooking the river. We have a 2-year time frame within which to do that. They're up there now with equipment. John O'Donnell could probably do it if we asked them to do it. This is something that's going to require more information and discussion than we probably have time for right now, so just keep that in mind.
Is that something the hospital, what is it, maintenance committee should take a look at?
No, it's something
I
that,
talked to Steve as well about it too.
It's-
part of the
The microphone.
negotiations. I think the negotiation committee probably.
it's the negotiation committee and the master planning committee have to have a discussion about
Be
it.
an alternate, would this be a second route?
The LD.
They have an easement across the town's hospital site property. There's a thought that it's probably better if their access is on the property that's going to DCR. Either run it in along the railroad track or at the bottom of the field there where it could be out of sight. That's part of the LDA that they agreed to do that.
Right.
We as the town have 2 years within which we have to ask them to do it. It makes sense maybe to do it now rather than later because John O'Donnell has the equipment up there and he could do it now.
The only problem with that is that the reason why we gave ourselves the 2 years was because we weren't sure where we wanted to do it. I have a conference call with Mary Beth tomorrow. Because there's already a contract with the environmental, building that road may not actually be allowed to be used. That same pot of money that he's using to do the environmental would not be used to build the road. But I think that we need to decide what the master planning committee is going to do before we determine where that road's going to go. I think that's why we gave ourselves the 2 years, was to figure out ultimately what the plan was going to look like
I
before
think
we
you
do
should talk
that.
to Steve. I think we've had some discussions.
Yeah.
I think
Ultimately, I need to talk to DCAM to find out whether or not they're willing to do that as part of this environmental contract.
What's important, though, is if you think about the parking lot, it's being constructed and will be finished probably in June or July. And it may be finished with no access to it other than the existing temporary easement across the core campus. It needs to be designed
Yes.
to take, so this can't wait until, and my recommendation would be that the simplest solution that solves any issues that might arise with the core campus is to ask for that road to be constructed now. DCAM's got a plan for that. Whether it comes out of the same budget of money or whether it comes out of a new budget of money, they shouldn't be finishing the construction now. That would make it, extremely difficult to do anything other than.
And I don't think
our
that's,
property.
in my initial conversations with them earlier today, I don't think that is the plan for that.
So, but again, it's, I saw the drawings last week and they're not coming in from, the parking lot road is not coming in from the right direction for anything other than coming across the core campus. So we need to get that resolved.
A couple more things on the list that I think that we should be looking at. As part of the public safety building, I had people looking for town budget information, town debt information, and it was not online. Chris actually put some of it online. Some of it, I guess, was online because it was part of the annual report, so if you could find it in the annual report, you could find the summaries. I think that we should have detailed financial town information online. I think the budget should be online. I think the checkbook should be online, the way the state's done with their checkbook.
I spent the last 2 days putting together charts on town debt and
Oh, that was
water and sewer
excellent. Thank
debt,
you for
so
Yeah,
doing
and
that.
the plan was,
Put
the
it on,
intention
yeah.
was to put that on the web with a call out for that.
Yeah,
I'm just waiting for Mike to
that's a great document that you put
Yeah.
together,
It
Mike.
was-
Thank
it-
you for
It
that.
was interesting. We had a lot of concerns about the level of projects we've been improving recently. So when I finished the debt, I added in using a 4% estimate for public safety building and 3.5% for the solar wastewater treatment plant, solar. And because that's 10 years, that's why I used the lower rate. And adding the principal and interest payments over the life of the projects, taking all our existing debt, the total outstanding principal and interest as of June 30th will be about $79 million. In 2003, when we were heavily into school construction and sewer construction, the total outstanding principal interest was $99 million. So we're still $20 million below.
Better, yeah.
Now, that doesn't necessarily make it easier. Part of it is because interest rates are so much lower. We were paying 5% back then. Georgia has refinanced a lot of our bonds at 1% and 2%.
When was it, 93?
2003,
2003.
yeah,
We just borrowed the $56 million for the 3 schools.
yeah. And back then, our tax base was much lower, housing values were lower, every our tax levy was lower, so it was a much higher percentage of our budget. In addition to that, we didn't have the reimbursements we're getting now. We have the money on the Sewer Stabilization Fund. We have the money from School Building Assistance Authority to offset some of the existing debt. So we are in better shape than we were 15 years ago in terms of our debt loads.
We're losing the school building assistants, right?
School building assistance, well, we lost it on the 92 project this last year.
But it tapers
this
off,
last
it
year.
goes in
Yeah.
relationship to the debt.
Yeah, but
it follows the debt down.
And it goes, the 20, I think it's 22 or 23, the 3-school project, the renovation project, is paid off. And that's the year that the school reimbursement, because we've scheduled it over the remaining life of the bond.
Right.
But you'll still be that year dropping about 600,000 net that you'll drop off your debt load.
Yep.
And next year, at the end of fiscal 16, we finished paying for the town hall, the library, the landfill closure, and the 30 acres on West Street.
Mike,
All
why
of
was
those are
there,
paid
there
off.
was like 180,000 left on the landfill. Was that, were we holding back a big sum, or?
No, that was a 20-year bond issue. I think it cost $600,000 or $800,000 that
Oh,
we had to pay
okay.
on it. So.
Maybe I misread your.
Yeah, but I think it's, if that schedule you look at, that went back to 14, so you'd have a little idea where we're going. So you have to subtract the 14 or 15 payments from the outstanding balance to get to what we owe at the end of 15.
It's a very detailed document that you did, and I've been working my way through it. I've been having lunch with it.
I know, I had to go back and look at some of the articles. It's very confusing because there were a lot of refinancings, and to try to figure out exactly when they were done is tough. So.
In terms of doing things in a little more disciplined way, I think we should get back to our annual calendar.
I know
where
I've
we're going and
I've
how
been
we're
promising you
fitting
that
things
for months, so I will get to that. So.
And I think that we should be approving our minutes on a regular basis, too.
I actually have that in talking with Evelyn. She's committed, after town meeting is over, that we'll get the minutes at the next meeting from the
Good.
previous meeting.
Excellent.
And I'd be willing to work with Mike to set up maybe like a 4-month schedule that would take it through August, and we can do it again, that would take it through the winter.
Yeah.
So I'd be willing to work with you on that, because I know you've asked.
Great.
And then just one other thing to add with the agenda, if both of you could just brainstorm, if there's any old business after town meeting, I'd like to get a list of what old business we haven't
covered.
completed yet, and
Okay.
space that out into this schedule that I'll work with Mike on. So if there's any old business you
Yeah.
know of.
Yeah.
I've gone through the minutes that we've had, and so if there's anything else, just let me know, and we'll add that to that.
And then the issue of sending a letter to Mike Clancy just struck me as, I mean, we should probably have a letter that we send to everybody that resigns, and just thank them for their service to the town, and that should just go out automatically, I would think.
Just closing comments. It would appear from some of the recent comments that you guys are doing a crappy job at running the town, and that you're not getting enough reports out, and no one knows what the hell we're doing, and we're not transparent enough. I hate the word transparent. I think that is just the most awful word in today's culture. So I want to let you all know that I think you do a great job running the town, and that it's great to get a lot of information out to people. I think we all understand that maybe 0.1% of the residents of the town of Medfield actually pay any attention to what goes on in town government, as is indicated when we go and have a special town meeting, and we have, if we're lucky, we get 400, 350 people show up out of the, 6,000 or 7,000 registered voters. So while I think it's a terrific idea to get a lot of information out to people, also, I don't know, you can get buried with a lot of details. One of the reasons why it works our town so well is we're very efficient. We've got a very tight staff. You folks have got a lot of things to do to keep itself running. I think if we keep going down this path of having more and more reports that we want to have out there, then we'll have to consider, adding to staff and hiring a full-time person. That's all that they're going to do all day, is just update the website and do other things. Which is something, if we want to consider to do that, that'll be great. Like I said, I don't think it's going to really benefit much, because it's going to be the 0.1% of the people in this town that are going to benefit from us hiring another person at $100,000. But, like I said, you know, I just get worried that we just get more and more information out there that people just, no one ever looks at and stuff. So I just want to commend you all for doing such a great job and putting up with sometimes all the, lot of nitpicking stuff that we ask you to do, as well as what goes on with the public, and we get from, you know, having to deal with the general public and politics in general. It's kind of a messy business, and I really don't know how you do it all day. I really don't, you know.
After
Would
20
shoot
or 30
myself.
years, you get used to it.
I
Evelyn.
just, you know, I just, you know, it just gets to me.
Okay.
Thank you.
I have, am I supposed to sign these myself, or is that you sign? This is the
I
one
think
on
it's
the...
you, because the
That's-
contract's the chairman of the
Yes.
contract.
Yeah.
And then the one on Wheelabrator.
I think it's
Is that the one we
That's
were...
yours.
What's the one we were gonna have you do?
That was
It's
on
the
the energy
energy.
contracts. That is in
Yeah.
there, so.
Okay. Okay, any other business? Motion to adjourn.
Excellent.
I'm Roberta Lynch, and you're watching Medfield.tv.